Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
What is going on, everyone? Not great news out of the Philadelphia Flyers as Carter Hart left the ice during a scrimmage and he did not return. Now, Colby Cohen of NBC Sports Philadelphia's pre- and post-game show for the Flyers, he tweeted out there that it's back spasms, nothing major. But I think it's still fair to ask this question. Should you be concerned about Carter Hart? Even if you see him back with the team this week or relatively soon, I still think that question is in play because do back spasms go away? Can it happen again? Is it possible that whenever he does return, that he is in some sort of discomfort once again and it puts him out for more time, maybe even longer time? This team without Carter Hart, it's just flat out not the same. And that's no disrespect to Brian Elliott. I think he's a phenomenal backup. I think he had a great season this year. I think he is one hell of a veteran goaltender that you can rely on in certain situations. But Carter Hart is the future. You can win with Carter Hart. And I think it's super important for him to gain experience. Even though this isn't your traditional playoff run where you have to worry about road games, and we all understand that Carter Hart did not play very well on the road. It was very similar to what happened with the 76ers. Fantastic home record, not so great away from the Wells Fargo Center. But even if it's a different scenario when you're in a bubble atmosphere or a hub city, as they like to call it, without fans, the pressure of the playoffs is still very beneficial to a young goalie like this to gain the experience. So he needs to play. I mean, I will be extremely disappointed if these back spasms come up once again. I don't think that this specific situation, this back spasm, is going to be the one to hold him out of this playoff run, but I am concerned that this can continue to pop up and it will continue to possibly give him discomfort to the point where maybe it does hurt him down the road to the point where the Flyers could be without the kid, and that is when I will get upset, and that is where it will bother me to the point where it'll definitely lose some interest because I want to see the kid. The kid is must-watch television. Philadelphia sports fans have been hearing about Carter Hart for so damn long to the point where here is this crazy run by this squad, and they're super entertaining, and they're actually in play to make some noise, and if you don't get him in between the pipes, it's going to be devastating from a Flyers fan's perspective. So I truly hope this is nothing that can snowball into a problem down the road. Once again, I don't think this specific back spasm will be the one to hold him out, but I am worried that maybe he goes back to practice and then he tweaks it again, or he's in some sort of pain again, and then now you're talking about a different scenario, and that no good for this team. Now, we will continue to talk about the Flyers because they actually do have potential, if Carter Hart is in net, of course, to make a splash, and they haven't really been talked about a lot because there really hasn't been that many juicy storylines with this team for a little bit of time. With the Flyers, they've been just flying under the radar. It's not the same as the Sixers. I know Flyers fans get upset. How come the Sixers get all the talk when the Flyers are better than them and they have more potential this run? They don't have the controversial players like Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid. They don't have the controversial Brett Brown. They don't have the Al Horford signing and the Tobias Harris contract. They don't have that type of conversation surrounding them. So naturally, they won't get that type of talk. It's not like all of the Sixers conversation that happened over the Flyers is all positive, like, oh, they're going to the NBA Finals. I would say that majority of it is a frustrating talk, as if people are pissed off with the Sixers. And yeah, you know what? When people are that pissed off and that upset about things, it goes and it kind of goes past something like the Flyers. It's a shame. I don't want it to be that way, but there's really no juicy storylines to kind of get into when it comes to this team. Alain Vigneault being a finalist for Coach of the Year, yeah, I think that's cool, but it's not juicy. Sean Couturier being up there with the Selke Trophy, and he's going up against Patrice Bergeron and Ryan O'Reilly. Okay, that's cool, but it doesn't pop tremendously. And also Oscar Lindblom is another one, and hopefully he wins it. Not that I don't want the other guys to win. Of course I do, but we all understand how emotional that Oscar Lindblom story is. A lot to get into. Before we do, though, this episode of Sports Talk with Broads is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power. With over 20 years of experience in the industry, they are home to your solar experts. Their solar program helps eliminate your electric bill completely. They offer flexible financing solutions such as $0 down. In addition, they will make sure you receive all the state and federal incentives available for switching to solar. There is no risk and no need for investment. With the solar energy system, you can even increase the value of your home by an average of 4.1%. Don't forget about their water purification systems, backup energy services, and more. Their information is in the description. So with Carter Hart, the reason why the team can't say anything is because of what was signed between the players' union and the league when it came to this return to play situation, that teams can't really say much. And Ian LaPerriere kind of came out and said it today, essentially. He's like, look, this is what the league wants us to say, so this is what it is, and he couldn't say much. You just saw a similar situation go down with Jake Voracek, where there was a fluky situation with one of his tests, and he didn't get a result back, so he wasn't able to be on the ice. And then the speculation was, well, he had COVID-19, and then once they figured everything out, he had a meeting with the media and was like, you guys worry way too much. So this whole thing with not being able to be open to the public and open to the media, it's definitely brutal for situations like this. Carter Hart was actually supposed to speak Tuesday after practice, and because of this, he did not. He did not say anything, and there was some speculation that maybe it was an equipment problem, but it was obvious that it was not that once he did not return. And you heard some teammates talk about it, Kevin Hayes and some of the other guys. I think Shane Gostisbehere was one of them, where, oh, I didn't even realize he was gone. It's probably not a big deal. I don't know if I can grab on to that. I get what they're saying, but I'm not going to grab onto that and say, oh, well, since Kevin Hayes barely saw him, or because some of his teammates barely saw him even leave, and they expect it not to be anything that crazy, well, that doesn't mean that it's not. Once again, I truly deep down don't think this issue right here, this specific back spasm, is the problem, but I know how back injuries work. I know how some things linger, and he's a goalie who is going to be physically moving around all the time in between the pipes, right? In the blue paint, he is going to be moving all around, being versatile, flopping around. You're telling me that I'm not allowed to be a little bit disappointed because I think that it is possible that back spasms can linger down the road? If this happens again when things kick off and the games actually matter, I'm going to be devastated. I will obviously still watch this team if Brian Elliott is in net, because you never really know what can happen in the NHL, and any damn team can win the Stanley Cup. You've seen 8th seeds win all the time. You saw the St. Louis Blues go on this miracle ride where they were awful, and then they go into the playoffs and they win the cup. Anything can happen. But I won't lie to you. It would be a difference maker if Carter Hart was not in the net, because there were so many times where there was maybe a defensive breakdown and Carter Hart flashed the leather after someone was wide open in the slot, and he came out of the crease and he challenged them with a beautiful glove save, or he went diving from post to post and got a save with his blocker. I mean, he is tremendous and all over the place, and I want him to get this experience. Even if the Flyers don't have that much success in the postseason, I want him to get as much playoff experience as possible, because he needs it. He's someone who is so smart when it comes to the game, who is so detailed when it comes to preparing himself, and when it comes to learning experience, and when it comes to studying the game. He is so detailed to the point where if he is 21 years old and he gets a chance to play any sort of team in a big moment in the playoffs, I want him to experience experienced that. Now, Alain Vigneault has been pretty open about what he feels like this round robin is going to be like, and he keeps bringing up the actual first round of playoff start date. Not so much the round robin play, but more so the actual games that matter, that first round of playoffs. And keep in mind, it's been a long damn time since this Philadelphia Flyers club has actually won a playoff series. So I like the fact that Alain Vigneault has that target date set in his mind over the round robin play. At this point, look, obviously the first seed is something that you would like to get. And the Flyers came into this round robin play as the 4th seed. So they really can't do any worse than what they came in at, right? So they can't get any worse than where they are. It would be nice to get the 1st seed. But with what's going on, without home ice advantage, who the hell cares really where you fall? You've seen 1st seeds flop all the time. You just saw the Tampa Bay Lightning, who were lethal as hell all season long last year, play the Columbus Blue Jackets and get swept. See you later. Sayonara. So the 1st seed to me, at this point, it just doesn't matter because it's so open and it's so available for all these teams. Who's to say that the team that the 1st seed will play isn't going to be the red-hot team rolling into this thing? You could also get a better matchup being in the 4th spot. I think the team is going to compete. I think they're going to go out there obviously trying to win, but I don't care if Alain Vigneault and the Flyers go with the approach of, I want to be ready for round 1. It would be nice to get a higher seed. I want to make sure everybody makes it out healthy, and from there, let's focus on the goal, and that's winning the first round of the playoffs. So if they end up in the 4th seed, then so be it. If Carter Hart doesn't play that much in these games and Moose gets some action, then so be it. I do wonder to some extent, though, would it be beneficial for these players to get some ice time, to go up and down the ice at a fast pace with the intensity being up there, right? More so than scrimmaging your team at the skate zone in Voorhees, New Jersey. Would it be beneficial for someone like Carter Hart to stop some biscuits in the games against the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Boston Bruins, the Washington Capitals, those type of teams? I do think it's valuable, but at the same time, is it worth the risk? Is it worth the risk? And I feel like you might see some more run with some depth guys more so than maybe the top guys, because at the end of the day, you can't be taking that risk, and you got to make sure that these guys are available for what matters, and that is the first matchup when the actual playoffs start. But it's a tough position to be in, no doubt. You can look at it the other way and say, well, if you get the matchup you want after you win the round robin to your best of your ability, maybe that changes your entire run. Do you get a different matchup in the first round, which allows you to move on to the second round and you get some momentum and you win? There's a lot that can be played devil's advocate-wise, but I wouldn't take the risk. I want to see these guys healthy. They haven't played for a long period of time. Now, I'm sure some of these players, majority of them, were staying on the ice, skating, obviously not to the point of an NHL speed game, but staying on the ice, keeping their feet wet, rolling, just getting the flow of things and being able to shoot the puck and skate at their local spots just to make sure that they're not sitting on their ass for 4 months and then getting thrown into some high-intensity game where you're battling in the corners and getting elbows in the face and cross-checking the back of the neck and getting two-handed in the shins, right? So I'm sure that they stayed on the ice to the best of their ability to make sure that when they're ready to go, that they're ready to go to the best that they possibly can. Obviously, they're not going to be in the same shape as they were once everything ended, but to the best of their ability. Some things going around the team right now, though, outside of Carter Hart. As I mentioned, Sean Couturier is a finalist for the Selke, which is the best two-way forward, if you will. A forward who's great at defending as well, and he has a phenomenal two-way game. He puts up points. He really is something special. And if you remember when he got drafted, he's been in the league for so long now because he entered at such a young age. He's still young. He's still young, and he rocks the A, and he's going to be a leader for a long time in this city. I'm sure he's going to be a Flyer for a long damn time, so it seems. And he is so special. He's so unique, and you can match him up against other teams' number one guys, and he does such an unbelievable job at holding them to respectful numbers. Now, sometimes those stars are so good on their side that they might find a way to score. They might find a way to make a play. But for the most part, when you have someone like Sean Couturier to match with somebody else, he can do it. You can rely on him, and he can do it at a good clip, at a good rate, at a good percentage, and that is so scary. The thing is, who he's going up against in Patrice Bergeron, this guy is just so damn respected when it comes to that. It just seems like his name pops so much where it's like, damn, there's Bergeron again. He always finds a way to be in this category because he's so special at it. Maybe, though, because Sean Couturier has been in the running for this type of award before, and he brings that type of conversation to his name. Maybe because Bergeron has won it in the past. Hey, here you go, Sean Couturier. You've been in the conversation before. Why doesn't he win it this time? Sometimes it does go that way because he has been recognized for this type of play in the past. But Ryan O'Reilly, he's definitely been some type of stud when it comes to that 200-foot game as well. And we know what he did when it comes to, even though that's not this season, when it comes to last year and winning that Stanley Cup and being that leader with the Blues. Pretty crazy run, no doubt about it. So, more with the squad. Joel Farabee, surprising a lot of people with how well he's playing. Not that that is surprising, because I think at this point we can see what he can provide with that youth, with that speed, with that IQ, with the ability to play make. He can also find the net at times, although that's not his strongest shoot of the game at the very moment. I'm not concerned with him, not being able to find the net if need be, right? He has done it. There was a time where he went a little dry, but that's going to happen when you hit a rookie wall, when you're playing so many games at the National Hockey League level, and you're going up against big body guys. It's way more intense. The physicality reaches a different level. So hitting a rookie wall, that makes a lot of sense. And he did that at one point through the season, but I think he can provide that spark. And apparently it was that Joel Farabee, Derek Grant, Tyler Pitlick line that was creating some buzz. You also saw a Giroux, Couturier, and Voracek line creating buzz. And these were on different days, but it's nice to see that some of these lines were definitely rolling and playing well. That Farabee, Grant, Pitlick line is definitely something that is intriguing, right? I mean, you wouldn't, if you were to sit here right now and say, yeah, what do you think a line would be that would flow pretty well? I really don't think that you would put that line together at all. So just something to keep your eyes out for. Kevin Hayes scored a Hattie. Ghost. Shane Gostisbehere looking well. And if you remember, Robert Haig kind of solidified himself in a role. What is Shane Gostisbehere? What is Shane Gostisbehere? I've been on the record saying with this guy that I don't think he's a bad player. I just think it's time for a change-up. I just think it's time for maybe something new when it comes to him, in a new place, in a new spot to play, because, well, he came in with such high expectations after he had a dominant season, and he really hasn't been able to live up to that hype. Maybe it's time for Shane Gostisbehere to get a fresh start. But as for this season, look, he's here. He's on that roster, and I think if he's playing pretty well, if he looks good, he's going to have an opportunity to slide in and maybe beat out a Robert Haig and maybe slip in to that starting six rotation when it comes to the defensive pairings. I'm not against it, but I do think at the same time he has a short leash. It all depends on how other guys are playing too. I think Robert Haig definitely played better than I expected him to. I was surprised, pleasantly surprised with some of his play. So, if he's playing bad and Shane Gostisbehere's playing average, like, maybe there's a way Ghost does find a way, even if he's not playing very well, or if Haig just isn't playing that well at all and Ghost is clearly the obvious choice. Maybe he does slide in, or injuries could play a factor. Who knows, right? I mean, there's going to be guys who get injured or test positive for COVID and have to quarantine at some point. You got to throw that into the equation. So maybe Ghost does have an opportunity in this to maybe make a splash and make some noise. I thought at times you saw what he was able to do. You saw what he did when he first came in the league, skating end to end, making plays, giving some shimmies in the neutral zone to gain the blue line, some clap bombs as well. You saw some poise at times by the blue line in the O-zone. You saw what he was capable of doing so early on in his career where you know it's in there. You know it's in there, and it seems like he's thinking too much. I always put him on the same page as Rhys Hoskins. And with Joel Farabee, I love these comparisons with the 76ers. With Joel Farabee hitting that rookie wall, it was sort of like Matisse Thybulle. Maybe this delay and this pause in the season will allow Joel Farabee to have a little bit more of a spurt with that quickness and the speed. And same with Matisse Thybulle, right? That spurt. Maybe after taking a beatdown against the physicality and the physical players in the NBA, that he gets a little bit more spurt. He gets a little bit more juice. And that could possibly happen with some of these younger guys. But there's a few players I question what they're going to be like when they come back. Someone like Aube-Kubel. He was playing the hell out of his role, right? And he was doing it well. Can you expect him to just fill that role again and be able to play that style of hockey? He was very intriguing. I thought, damn, this kid really snuck in there, just slid under the radar and found a perfect spot, a perfect home for him, and he was clicking, and he was rolling, and he was doing all the little things he needed to do to stay in that lineup. For Alain Vigneault to put him out there. For his head coach to say, I trust you in situations. Go out there. But all of a sudden, is he going to do that? The confidence at the time, right? That plays such a big factor. If he comes out and things don't really go his way early on, does he lose that confidence? So players like Aube-Kubel, Scott Laughton. Now, I think Scott Laughton's at a different spot in his career than Aube-Kubel, of course, so I would expect him to be more mentally prepared and ready to rock and roll. Not that I don't expect Aube-Kubel to be, but they're in different spots in their career, and I think Scott Laughton is a little bit more solidified in this new role that he has walked into than Aube-Kubel. He needs to. Realistically, he needs to be what he was, or this team is going to not be as strong. The reason why the Flyers were so successful, they were deep, and they were rolling. You were able to roll all four lines. Raffle, Scott Laughton, Pitlick, Derek Grant. Who else did they pick up at the deadline? Why am I drawing a blank on who they picked up at the deadline the same time as Derek Grant? Thompson? Nate Thompson. You just had depth, and you were able to flow, and you were able to throw guys in there. JVR was on your third line at a point because you had Travis Konechny rolling on the right side. You had G, you had Kutsi, you had Voracek. Who else am I missing playing second-line center? Come on, bro. I mean, you're all over the place right now. You're drawing blanks. Oh, Kevin Hayes. What the hell is wrong with me? Are you serious, bro? Go to bed. Do this in the morning. I mean, one of the biggest acquisitions this team has. Hopefully he can do what he did on the PK because he was special penalty killing. No doubt he was. Special. I brought up this debate on 97.3 ESPN. Who was the bigger acquisition, Matt Niskanen or Kevin Hayes? And it's a super tough question. I think long-term it's going to be Kevin Hayes because of the contract. But in terms of this season, Matt Niskanen turned Ivan Provorov's season around. It's got to be Ivan Provorov's turnaround that Matt Niskanen has provided. It's got to be Matt Niskanen. I think it's that important. Ivan Provorov was a dumpster fire heading in the wrong direction. And I could argue that Matt Niskanen saved him big time. And now it's to the point where he's a stud. A stud. Game changer. Game-changing defenseman. Can't wait. I can't wait to see the Fly guys play. For real. The scrimmages that they're throwing up on the feed on Twitter, I can't get into that. I can get in the exhibition with the Phillies, and maybe if it was a better feed, I think it's a horrible visual feed to the point where I can't get excited for it at all. So maybe that's why. But I can't get into it. Shortly, though, they're going to be back in action with some games on TV, and that I'm intrigued by. So thank you so much for watching this episode of Sports Talk with Broads. Do not forget that this episode is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power. Their solar program helps eliminate your electric bill completely, and they offer flexible financing solutions such as $0 downs. With a solar energy system, you can even increase the value of your home by an average of 4.1%. So, down below in the comments section on YouTube, or if you're listening to this on Apple Podcast or other podcasting platforms, you can use the review system to comment. I love reading those. I want you to answer this question. Is it fair to still be worried about Carter Hart if he's okay with just minor back spasms? Because it is, in my opinion. Because I'm worried it can happen again. With the snap of your fingers, bang, it can happen again. With the way these goalies move all around, it can happen again. And I would be devastated if Carter Hart is not in between the net when the games truly matter. Because I need to see this kid grow, and I need to see this kid gain some experience. So I asked that question. I want to hear your thoughts on the Flyers as a whole. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.